Do you remember when you were going through changes? If so, I hope it wasn't as gross as this series makes it out to be. I love Big Mouth, and I hate it all at the same time. It's raunchy, it's weird, it's lewd, it's crass, and it shows a wide variety of nudity in ways that probably would get certain people arrested, and yet it seems to exist in a microcosm. It really just goes to show the power that is Netflix. Because if it weren't for Netflix, this series would never be allowed to exist. Big Mouth really is that next step past South Park. It goes that one step beyond that South Park could never do simply because of the fact that South Park is on cable. It was always made for cable. But South Park had a tendency to kind of go in these directions, but not to the degree that Big Mouth does. From Nick to Jay to Jesse to Andrew, all pretty much named and based off of actual people, because it's a who's who of comedians all across the comedy landscape. But even within its comedy, there were actually moments. The series actually, despite all that, could be a gold mine for knowledge, actual learning, real life issues and problems that never seem to really stand out in the real world, but is a thing that actually exists and needs to be talked about a lot of the time, but ends up being glossed over because it's considered so nasty or taboo. This series tackles all the warts. The gross things, the nasty things, the things that society as a whole should learn to not take as seriously in a lot of cases, or maybe even take more seriously than they actually do. Treat these things with more respect and allow them to be in the conversation and not simply shied away from. Despite what I feel Big Mouth shouldn't do in certain cases, I also feel that Big Mouth should, in a lot of ways, keep doing what it's been doing, if only just to get the word out there, to make it known, to make sure people never forget. The world needs Big Mouth more than it will ever acknowledge. And people need to have these discussions, no matter how uncomfortable they might be. Because a lot of problems stem from people just not being comfortable with their bodies, or growing up feeling awkward and wrong and just out of place. And the more of a discussion we have on those subjects, on those issues, could lead to the potential for something better down the line. I wouldn't go as far to say that Big Mouth is revolutionary. I would say it's necessary. In the world moving forward, that will one day see Big Mouth and say, how quaint that we used to think this was offensive. But what's your thoughts on Big Mouth? Do you feel it's too terrible to be watched? Or do you feel that it's just terrible enough to open up a discussion to the real nature of puberty and growing up? Till next time.